Welcome to Season 3 of the Take the Leap podcast. We want to thank you for being a part of this journey with us.
Whether you're just starting to tune in or you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you can expect to hear from entrepreneurs in all stages of their journey, how they got to where they are, and all the mistakes and victories they've had along the way.
We're excited to share new guests and have some returning folks from our first 2 seasons. Thank you for being here, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back, everyone, to the Take the Leap podcast. We're really excited for our guest today, Christine Manning. Christine is a business and mindset coach who works with founders and leaders at the point where pushing harder stops working. She brings over 20 years of experience in marketing leadership, along with a decade as a founder who built and exited her own food business. Her coaching is grounded in real-world business experience, a deep interest in neuroscience, and training in Hakomi, a mindfulness-based approach that helps uncover the unconscious patterns shaping behavior. Christine's work focuses on helping people step out of the mental loops that keep them stuck so that they can think clearly, trust themselves again, and make decisions that lead to meaningful, sustainable results. Her clients don't just gain clarity, they change how they see themselves, what they believe is possible, and how they show up in their work and lives. Welcome, Christine. We're so excited to have you here on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here as well.
Yay. Yes. And we will just kick off like we always do with these episodes, which is, what is your Take the Leap story? How did you become involved in entrepreneurship? And since I know you had the food business and this coaching business, feel free to tell us, any amount of things about either one. And either part of the journey.
I think my life has just been a series of leaps. I've left jobs to travel the world for a year. I got packaged out of my marketing job on the very first day back from my honeymoon, and that's what began my career in consumer packaged goods. Because once I was packaged out, you can't look for a job 8 hours a day. And I'd had my very first vegetable garden. My mother's Italian. I grew up making raspberry jam as the family chore. And so I started making preserves. And before you knew it, I was standing at a farmer's market selling those preserves. And then I was in stores. And then we built a 4,000 square foot facility. And it grew from there. But most people think that the leap was starting the business. But my opinion is that the leap was really leaving it. Because I had built something that from the outside looked really successful. It was growing. It had traction. And I put a decade of effort and intentionality into it. But internally for me, something had shifted. There was still a lot of growth available for the business, but I myself didn't really feel like that growth was available for me. It was just going to be a lot of step and repeat. Mm-hmm. And I remember noticing that the way I was operating, the pushing, the constant decision making, all of that pressure, it just didn't feel sustainable for me anymore. And not in I wasn't dramatically burnt out, just a quiet, honest knowing that this isn't how I wanted to spend the next decade. Mm-hmm. And that was a really, it was a hard place to sit in because nothing was obviously wrong. And when there's nothing obviously wrong, it's very easy to convince yourself just to stay where you are. But I couldn't really unsee the fact that there was going to be not a lot of growth left for me in the business. So I made the decision to sell. And for me, that was the real leap, not only because I didn't fully know what I was going to do next, but I had to trust something that I couldn't fully explain yet. And that was probably one of the biggest leaps.
That's so cool. I love that you said that too, because I feel like a lot of us have those moments where something's speaking to us, something's telling us that this is no longer the right fit, or this isn't what I want long term, or maybe I just want to change this in a certain way. And I feel like most of us don't listen until much later. And I feel like you kind of figured out that intuition right away, and you're like, oh, this is a sign, I'm going to take the leap. I love that. That was a really beautiful way of saying that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It was and it led me to the space I work in now, helping people recognize when they've outgrown the way that they've been operating, really, and what
Yeah.
it looks like to move from a different place. We all are
Mhm.
taught this is what's going to help us achieve our goals, like our thinking, our thoughts, our mind is going to get us to our goals. But what I've learned is a lot of the times it's your heart, like you
Yeah.
said, your
Mhm.
intuition.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting too because I've noticed this a lot when I'm like networking with folks here is, they always people are always like grow, grow, grow your business. There's never that folks who I'm like, I'm actually really satisfied where I'm at right now. Like a little bit of growth would be okay, just so that if I'm always thinking like if a client leaves, we want to have enough,
Right.
ready to be able to like sustain, the lifestyle we're at, but just growing for the sake of growing and becoming, one of these, millionaire, billionaire, whatevers, I often look at things like that and think like, would I want to be a billionaire? No, because I think that they do shite with their money. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's something just fundamentally wrong with that kind of excessive accumulation of wealth. But that is, often in capitalist societies, that is what is held as our ideal is just push, 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 grow, grow, grow. That growth is going to be the happiness instead of being like, hi, I can be content with, living a very productive life in the way that feels valuable to me. So yeah, I love having that sort of story of, yeah, we sold the business just to pursue something new because I didn't feel that was, a space for me to even, grow, like you said, grow into your own, experience that you wanted as well.
And I think that was also one of the reasons that I got so interested in neuroscience is exactly what you said. We're all programmed to like grow, 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 but what's the driving force behind it?
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting to know that, we think dopamine, what we would expect that dopamine would be created when you have achieved your goal so that you have that amazing feeling. But what happens is dopamine completely drops off once you've achieved your goal. It's in the chase, it's in the pursuit that you're getting that thing. So I think people get addicted to that, right? It's just they're chasing that feeling over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense. And then you're never satisfied. You're never happy with where you're at because you just keep wanting more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is
The
like, it
endless
just doesn't
chase.
sound like a fun way to live.
Yeah, and I was really glad that I realized that.
That's awesome. Well, knowing kind of what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self when you were kind of starting out with everything?
There's a couple pieces, but I think the key one would be I would really want myself to understand that it's okay to leave something that's working. Like, I
I love
think we're
that.
taught that if something is successful, you stay, you keep going. And
Mm-hmm.
I did that for a while, but some of the hardest decisions come when there's like nothing obviously wrong.
Yeah.
Right? There
Mm-hmm.
comes a point where I knew very clearly that the way I was operating, that wasn't right for me anymore. And this is where I think so many people get stuck. They're waiting for something to break, right? I'm so burnt
Mm-hmm.
out, I can't continue forward before they actually give themselves permission to change.
Yeah.
So if I could go back, you mentioned like trusting myself, I would trust myself sooner. And I
Mm-hmm.
would want to protect that trusting a little bit more because the moment that I started to share the decision, what happened was people projected their own fear onto me, not
Mhm.
because they thought what I was doing wrong was wrong, but because they were looking at it through their own lens of, oh
Yeah.
wow, like could I walk away from a company I just spent a decade building? And that experience really taught me a lot about like self trust and how
Mhm.
easy it is to really truly override something when you're told, but everything's going okay.
Mm-hmm.
I love
And
that.
that's a big part of the work that I do now is helping people recognize when they're ready to make a change, even if they can't fully justify it to themselves yet.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And it's also a good reminder that while most people mean well, a lot of advice doesn't always apply to you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are giving you advice from their own fears and anxieties or backgrounds
Mhm.
or trauma, the way they grew up, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
while most people mean well, it doesn't apply to you.
Yeah.
No, and I heard everything from, uh, oh, going to be the biggest mistake of your life selling this business. You've already sunk so much time into it. Aren't you going to feel like that was a waste of time? Or you're too old to start something new? You know, all of those things, because of where I was at, I knew was them projecting their own fear onto me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and like living or having the lens of somebody else's insecurities for your own decision making is not a great, not a great look, not a
Yeah.
great, not a great place. Like, yes, I
Yeah,
know you would never do this, but this is what I feel like is right for me.
yeah.
And I think yeah, that can be really hard for folks
People,
to
yeah.
see
Mm,
themselves in somebody else's. But I mean, it's a good point. You are living your own life, so as long as you're not creating harm on others, like
Right.
that could be your own decision of the direction that you go. All right,
mhm.
I have the last of our standard questions, which is what's your why? So, I know you sold the other business and then launched into another type of entrepreneurship. So, kind of what is
Yeah.
your guiding why now in the work that you do?
Okay, so I think my why really comes down to this. I woke up to how much of my life wasn't actually mine anymore, right? The thoughts, the pressure, what I believed I should want or be doing, a lot of it was conditioning, I suppose, is the best word for it. And I didn't question it for a really long time. And when I finally did, that's when everything changed, like how I make decisions, what I'm available for, what I believe is possible. And now
Mhm.
I see it everywhere. People living inside these patterns that they didn't choose. And they're pushing themselves in ways that don't even feel right anymore. So my work now is about helping people see that, because once you do, you just can't go back to autopilot. And from
Yeah.
there, you get to choose something different. So I always say that my why right now is I want to wake as many people up as I can from sleepwalking so that they can live their life to the fullest.
I
I
love that.
yeah. I was gonna say I love that as well, but
I
yeah.
love
But I do
that.
think a lot of people don't realize that they are on autopilot because
Yeah.
you don't ever stop to reflect, think, question. I think ever since that I've started my own business, I feel like I spend so much more time reflecting on things than I did
Yeah.
when I went to like a standard 9 to 5, because you do get so many choices, right? In your when you
Mm-hmm.
are a business owner and you are an
Right.
entrepreneur. It's also why sometimes when my husband asks me what I want for dinner, I'm like, you know what? I made hundreds of choices today. I would like you to make that choice for us. Like
I
you
have
know what I like to
decision
eat.
fatigue.
Yes, I have
Yeah.
decision fatigue in my day. So,
My husband and I have that same exact conversation a lot. I'm
yep,
like, it's your choice. Pick whatever. I won't complain.
yep, yep.
just pick. And I don't. Even if he picks something that I'm like, oh, that doesn't really sound good. I'm like, it's okay. He picked. It's
Yep.
fine. I'll eat it.
One less
One
decision
less
for you.
decision.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny. I agree. I feel like since becoming an entrepreneur, all I do now is reflect on things. And that's not to say though that I don't still go into autopilot, like even with my own stuff, with my own work sometimes. And when I notice myself getting back into that pattern, I'm like, whoa, wait, why are we doing this? Because being an autopilot doesn't allow me to be creative. It doesn't allow me to do my best work. And so sometimes I'm like, "Ooh, do I not like doing this specific thing anymore, or is there a weird thing with this client that I'm just not jiving with?" Like it's like a good red flag trigger for me of, "Oh, what's going on here? I need to take a look at this." When I do
Mm-hmm.
start to feel myself going into autopilot again.
Yeah, and I think awareness is a tool that so many people don't even know is so at
Mhm.
their disposal. If you just,
Yeah.
I have a book on my shelf behind me, and I just absolutely love it. The one of the quotes inside of it is, We are not the thoughts of our mind. We are the one watching them. And for me, that's just such a beautiful way to explain, like, you need to create separation between yourself and your thoughts, because a lot of those thoughts aren't your own. They're things that were programmed into you by teachers, friends, society, etc. And you're just operating from them. And if you think about that, if you're operating from your thoughts that aren't your own, then you're having feelings about those thoughts, and then you're taking actions, and then you're getting results. And if you're not happy with those results, then you need to change your thinking.
Okay, what is the name of this book? I feel like I need to add it to my
Oh,
reading list.
It's called The Untethered Soul.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it by again?
Michael Singer.
Michael Singer, okay. Nice. That's going to my TBR. That's not the first time I've heard that title, so I know it's been around.
Yeah, it's definitely been around. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I think changing subjects a little bit, it's time for us to go into our hot seat questions.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're not that scary.
Okay.
So I always kick it off with the same question every time, and that's, what is the best or worst piece of advice that you've received?
I would say the best piece of advice I've received is that fear disguises itself as a multitude of emotions. So to never accept it as fear automatically.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I like that.
Was a good answer. We've gotten some really good responses to that question. I feel like we should compile them all.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah. That's a good one too, because I feel like fear triggers your fight or flight. And so, so it can hide a lot of things, because that's that's just, just a protective layer, but it can honestly be your brain tricking you.
Well, and oftentimes fear and excitement feel like the exact same way in your nervous system, right? So I like anticipatory excitement, like me wanting to speak on a stage somewhere, feels terrifying, but it's not fear. But fear would stop me, excitement wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah, it's a fine line between those two things.
Yeah.
As well. Okay, I've got our next question. You have a workshop called Boredom Training. Can you share more with us what that's all about?
Yeah, so it came out of a pretty personal space. So after I sold the business, I realized, because I'd been so busy for a decade, that I couldn't actually sit still, right? Like sitting still it made me feel anxious. I'd spent so many years operating at such a high level of intensity that the moment things got quiet, my brain treated it like a problem. So I started experimenting with boredom, not like nothing to do, but as just space. And what I saw in both myself and now my clients is that most people have completely lost the ability to be with their own thoughts without reaching for something. Their phone, their email, listening to a podcast. And as the problem, when you lose that, you also lose access to your best thinking, your clarity, like your ability to focus on what matters. So boredom training is really about just rebuilding that capacity, not to do less, but to be more intentional with your attention. Because once you can sit with yourself, everything changes: how you think, how you decide, what you're actually able to follow through on. So it's a 2-day workshop where we break down, what is boredom? What does it feel like? What role does it play for you? And what lives on the other side?
Oh. I feel like that should not just be taught to entrepreneurs. I feel like that should be taught to children, to young people, because I feel like that's the more that I've been interacting with folks who are, at least 10 to 20 years younger than me. They can't do anything without their phone. They need attention. They need to talk to somebody. They can't be alone in a quiet room, and sit and be with themselves, or, if they don't have, something to do in their house, or something that is, guiding that attention, they go slightly crazy. And I'm like, really? You can't just, like, I know one of my favorite things to do, which I know is, it's still doing something, but is like coloring in a coloring book and just letting that like calm your nervous system. And
Oh
people are
my
like,
God.
why are you doing that? There's nothing, that's not giving any gains. And I'm like, that's the point.
Mm.
It's letting my brain relax. All I'm doing is choosing colors that look cute next to each other, and just, easing into this activity that lets my nervous system calm down.
Hmm.
Whereas,
Mhm.
it might have been a client might have yelled at me that day. I might have had something, go awry. And so just being able to have that little Zen moment is so helpful. But yeah,
Oh
I've
yeah,
had people.
your nervous system is thanking you for that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people are just like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you wasted time doing that." And I was like, "I don't actually think that was wasted time at all. I would love to
Mm-mm.
spend more time being, a little bit creative in that space instead." So yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds like a
Yeah, I love
fantastic
that.
workshop.
Oh, thank you.
I love what you said about needing to learn to like be with yourself and get to know yourself. Like that's just yeah, it's so important. We have
Where our thoughts can be very scary to us.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Yeah.
but if you think about it, that quote that I said earlier, if you understand that you are not your thoughts, you're the one
Yeah.
watching them, then suddenly you have that a little bit of dissociation from the thoughts, and they're easier to be with.
Mhm.
I love that. That's so powerful. Well, switching, I mean, not totally switching gears, but kind of a little bit. So I know you are working with entrepreneurs and you're working with people and kind of helping them like break through kind of things that are holding them back and coaching them through that. So is there any sort of trend or something you've seen specifically in like the last year or two as the world has kind of gotten a little bit more chaotic? Is there anything that like people are kind of any trend you're seeing of things that people are kind of dealing with right now and how you're coaching them through that?
I think there's a lot of people who no longer trust themselves.
Yeah.
So there's been um, a lot of a decline in self-trust, and
Okay. Yeah.
that's one of the things. So that leads to people feeling stuck. It The level of exhaustion leads to people feeling burnt out, and all of a sudden their prefrontal cortexes are going offline and they can no longer think strategically. So I would say that just the level of information that is coming at people nowadays is so intense where our brain cannot process the level of information that's coming in, and
Yeah.
it's leading to a real high level of, most of my clients are stuck, burnt out, and lack self-trust because they're second COVID made us second guess everything, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, decisions that came really naturally to us, like I'm going to the grocery store, I'm going to go hang out with friends, suddenly they were like, all of a sudden there was all of this fear and big decisions around every single thing that actions we used to just take for granted.
Right.
And that's been a pattern that's really hard to break for people.
Mhm.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I also feel like with so many people relying on AI tools and really outsourcing their critical thinking,
Mm.
I'm just like, please, just think, just ask. Like, I was giving advice to a business owner who I've been working with, and I'm like, just ask your clients, ask your
Yeah.
clients what you like. Or I was asking her, I was like, who of your clients do you really want to clone? Like, who's your favorite people? Like, let's talk to them, because we all
Mm.
want people that we jive with and we work well with, and typically we know what we're saying to them that's keeping them sticking around. And she was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna have to think on that one. And I'm like, well, yes, please think on it, but spend some time journaling, spend some time thinking about it. You don't need to to answer that for me right now, but that's, you don't need to go to AI to try to ask what to do in your business type, because then you're not going to be differentiated from any other business that's
No.
doing the same thing. You really need to land on what's your secret sauce, and also what's, the secret sauce of the people that you want to attract more of into.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just very mind blowing to her. And I was like, yeah, that's, I was like, I think about that all the time, especially when I stop working with somebody who ends up being like a horror client. I'm like, let's go back and analyze what were those yellow flags that I could have caught, ahead of time, that I did end up just being like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to ignore that. And we're going to assume that it's going to, get better. And then of course, at the end of it, you're just like, okay, we need to be better at putting those blocks and barriers, or the no's up ahead of time. And then also not being, I think it can, people worry about like offending folks, too much. But you said something earlier today about protecting who gets your energy and who gets your time. Like, not everybody has a right to that. And I think
No.
Yeah.
we forget that sometimes, that we don't need to be for everyone, and we don't need to work work with or for everyone. And I find myself constantly in that circle cycle of, don't forget, this doesn't need to repeat itself again.
Yeah. I think you said the thing you said about AI was so spot on, is people are outsourcing their critical thinking. And that also leads to a lack of self-trust, because if you're outsourcing decisions and then living with the results from those decisions that are being made by AI, well, how do you trust yourself to make decisions moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a snowball effect as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay, totally pivoting direction. You had wrote something on your LinkedIn about selling your previous business and losing yourself in that. What advice do you have for business owners to make sure they're not throwing their entire identity into their business?
I always like to tell people that it's really important to not lose themselves in the business. That it's really, really easy when you're starting a business to give it all of your energy, like a Pac-Man, right? Your business is constantly looking for that next pellet. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to what are you thinking about the stage of business that you're at, so that your goal, your personal goal, and your business goal don't do this. Like, they don't go in a big V in opposite directions. And so many people don't have a destination in mind for their business.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they start a business, but they don't have a clear goal of where they want it to be in 5 years. I know when we were building our business, in a lot of instances, we were building the airplane as it flies, but we always knew which airport we wanted it to land at.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't. And so they just get pulled in the direction of the ecosystem that their business is in, the fire that's burning the brightest. And that is when they lose track of what they want, where they want to go. So without a destination in mind, it's really easy for those two things to veer off in very different directions.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really good. You're making me think today.
I was gonna say,
wow, I need to go reflect after this.
We're gonna have an interesting debrief conversation.
I know. I'm gonna be journaling about this for a while.
Well, I could send you some journal prompts.
Ooh,
I would love that.
Yeah, I would really love that. Well, kind of pivoting again a little bit.
Yeah.
I saw on your website that you have a little section on your about page about your meditation practice and how that's really kind of helped you in the last little bit. And you have some supportive links there. So I just wanted to bring that up so you could talk about it, because I want to know a little bit more about your journey with meditation. Sure.
So it was actually my husband who got me into meditating. It was nine years ago. My mom was in hospice. She was going to go into hospice. She'd been battling cancer for a while, and she was going into hospice, and we knew that it was the end was near. I have 4 older sisters, And I knew that I was going into something that was going to be very high pressure, lots of emotions. And so we started exploring meditation, just doing like guided meditations beforehand, just so that I would have something to help me with my nervous system as I was dealing with the loss of my mother and all the complications around that. And that's where I started. And then I read a couple of books along the way that got me into like complete silent meditation, where you're just focusing on your breath. And I fell in love with that because it helped also. My awareness of my thoughts became so much clearer, because when you're meditating, it's just you and your thoughts. And so many people say to me, oh, I could never meditate. I can't get rid of the thoughts in my mind. And what I always want to tell them is that's not actually the goal, right? The goal is you're actually strengthening your muscle of attention. So through the meditation I do now, I'm focused on my breathing. And of course, my mind carries me away in a million different directions, but I pull myself back to my breathing. I get carried away again, I pull myself back to my breathing. So it's about building that muscle of attention, so that, kind of like with the boredom training, now when I sit down to focus on something, I can work for a solid period of time without getting distracted by my phone, without getting distracted by my email. And I put that all down to the power of meditation.
Wow.
So I think I'm close to meditating now for 500 days straight. I used to do it like sporadically, a couple of mornings a week. And now it's, if I don't meditate, I can tell throughout the day that I didn't ground myself in that practice first thing in the morning.
Wow. That's really cool.
How long in the mornings do you do your meditation practice?
So 20 minutes is what I meditate for. And then I have a journaling practice as well. So typically my morning routine's about 45 minutes long, but the meditation is, other people do it longer, other people do it shorter. I find 20 minutes is kind of the perfect amount of time to let me really drop in and get into it. And then I just kind of can pop out and go on with my day.
I love it.
Yeah, I've picked up and put down meditation so many times, and I do feel like going back to it would be a good space to focus. Awesome.
I've always done the guided meditation versions for some reason, but I love what you said about the goal isn't to get rid of your thoughts, because I think that's why I would get frustrated in the past, is because I would sit there and I'm like, shut up, Tori, stop thinking, stop. And so that's why I think I gave up because of that. So I love that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, they never go away.
Yeah.
Well, before I ask our final question, is there anything that you wanted to share with our audience about your journey, or anything before we wrap up our episode today?
I think, my journey I've taken a lot of leaps in my journey, like I said, from working in marketing to having my own food business to now having a service-based business. And I think the one thing that I just want to let people know is that to stop and ask yourself, is what's happening real? Like, is it really true, or is it a story you're telling yourself about the situation? Because when you realize it's a story, then it's so much easier to move forward with what you're choosing to do. So always just pause and go, like, is what happened? Can I say with 100% certainty that what I'm thinking right now is true, or is this a story I'm telling myself?
Yeah.
That is very, very powerful, because I think, our brains are designed to protect us in so many different ways. So sometimes that story is an underlying thing of like, we're truly scared of what could, happen in this direction. Like, even folks that, I'm sure, Tori, you get this all the time, people who are like, I can't believe that you have a business. I can't believe you've had a business for this long. Like, I'm just so scared. I don't think I could ever, I don't think I could ever do it. And I'm like, honestly, it's really not, like, it's hard, but it's it's not as hard as
like,
I thought it was, going to be when I first started out. And so, yeah, I think that's such valuable, valuable information, because we don't ever sit down and analyze, is this a story that I'm making up in my brain to protect myself from the scary unknown, which, you could take the leap into something and just suddenly find, wow, that was really cool.
Yeah,
And I
like
would have
you
never
said,
experienced it if I didn't take a chance. So, yeah.
because like you said, your brain is designed to keep you safe. It's not designed to make you successful, right?
True.
Yeah. Oh, that's smart. That's a really good way to say it.
Yeah, we've evolved for safety, security, protection.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. That's a good point.
Well, thank you so much again, Christine. Our final question that we are asking everyone, because at some point we are going to make a list of all these things, is what is a piece of media content, be it a song, a movie, a book, a podcast, any sort of media that folks could look up out there that you're obsessed with or really digging right now?
That is such a good question. From a podcast perspective, I'm really enjoying, because I take in so much information through the day about my career. So I like something that's totally non-related. So I love the Smartless podcast. It's funny and humorful. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's one that I'm really enjoying right now. Yeah, so yeah, it's a change of pace, let's say, from what you do every day. Yeah.
Right. And you need that too. That's why like a lot of people read fiction, like, because you're learning so much information about your business during the day. Like you need a little bit of escape afterwards,
Yeah.
Like we need breaks.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I love that.
Well, thank you so much, Christine, for hopping on with us on the podcast today. I can't wait till we have you on again for a future season so that we can dig so much deeper into what we chatted about. And listeners, thank you for hanging out with us. All of Christine's links will be in the show notes, and we'll see you next time on Take the Leap. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Take the Leap podcast. Check out our show notes to connect with us and our guests. If you have questions about the episode or ideas for future topics, send us a direct message on Instagram or email us at aloha@taketheleap-today.com. If you're interested in being a guest, fill out the guest interest form on our website.
If you're a new entrepreneur who is looking for a roadmap to move your business idea forward, check out the Take the Leap course on our website, taketheleap-today.com. Members who join the course also have an opportunity to join us in bi-weekly co-working and group coaching calls to build momentum and work on your business.
And if you'd like a flavor of what we offer, sign up for our free webinar with the 9 essential steps you need to launch your business with clarity and confidence. See you next time.